Welcome back to another episode of Right Here in Mass. Joining me today is Mark Silverman, the president and CEO of Marks Moving and Storage, which has been helping people move since 1979. In addition to owning Marks Moving and Storage, he has created Marks Northeastern Furniture Foundation, thestoragecompany.com, has invested in and managed Massachusetts Portable Storage, and has been a successful business owner throughout the past 3 decades. Mark, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Nice to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
I'm happy to have you here. I would love to have you share with our listeners an overview of the history of your company and how you got started with it.
Sure. Well, it's sort of a good, fun story. Back in 1979, I believe it was, I was a student at Northeastern University, and I needed some money. I needed money for college. So I bought a van with money I borrowed from a credit card. And I took a can of spray paint and I tried to write on the side, Marks Moving. Well, all the paint dripped down, and I realized I would never be a very good truck letterer, but I could still be a good mover. So, anyways, I had a sign made for that van. That was in 1979. And I began to do very small moves, just looking for extra money, essentially for college tuition and food. And as time went on in the first year or two, I had a great response from the community. Business was strong. And it felt that maybe I could really make something of this much greater than I ever even thought about. So about halfway through Northeastern, I said, well, Northeastern University will always be on Huntington Ave. I don't know if this opportunity will always be there. I'm going to go for this moving company and see what I can do with it. So as I continued on, I was able to build a good team of employees. I have a very loyal customer following. And the real fun part of this story is that in 2013, I believe it was, when all of my children were done with college, I went back to Huntington Ave, sat next to all the kids a fraction of my age, and I continued for 2 years till I got my business degree from Northeastern. So it took me 39 years to get my business degree. Guess I'm not the smartest guy, but it did give me an opportunity to continue to build Marks Moving and Storage. We're now in year 47.
Amazing. And how funny is it that you simply started the company just to have money for your tuition and food, and then it ended up turning into something that you were like, you know what, I'm actually going to leave college because this is going so well.
Well, I guess what I've learned over the years is a lot of businessmen, a lot of entrepreneurs actually started that way. They had an opportunity to do something, to make some money. They had no real intention of building something from it, but then the opportunity was right in front of them and they ran with it. And that's sort of what happened here. But I've been very fortunate that I've met a lot of good people over the years. I have a great team that I work with. One of my employees, the vice president of the company, George Jacobs, has been with me pretty much since the beginning. Most of the employees have been here for decades, and it really is a privilege to work with the people that I do work with.
Absolutely. And I'd love to hear, because we do have listeners who are in that demographic of college or early adulthood ages, perhaps early 20s. And so they might be in that situation too, where they're in school and building a company. And so I'm curious to hear if, when you made the decision to leave Northeastern, if you received pushback from anyone close to you, whether it was family or friends who doubted you, and if so, how you navigated that. Because I think that's something a lot of young people face today, is just wanting to follow their dreams, but having doubt or hesitation from the people around them.
So a couple stories to answer that question with. One is that I've been very fortunate that family and friends have always been very supportive of anything I do from a young age. But absolutely, when someone says, particularly back then, if you're going to quit college, they're like, well, what are you talking about? You have to go to college. You can't go to college. So I'm certain that there were family members that questioned the decision, but I couldn't be stopped. So to those people that are in a position where they have to make some decisions, which road do I take? don't be afraid. Go with your intuition. College is very important, I believe, still today. It allows you to meet other people from different cultures. It introduces you to things that you may never be introduced to if you didn't go to college. So I think it's still very important. And in fact, there are many professors in school that will take students under their wing and really guide them right through college into their future. So college, very important. However, if you have opportunity, seize the opportunity. Don't be afraid to fail. Most universities will still be there. You can go back, as I did, 39 years to graduate. Don't be afraid to take that chance. Let people try and convince you why you shouldn't, say, quit college. But if you can overcome all of their objections, you have a good answer, then you know you're on the right path. The second part of the answer is, I spoke once at Needham High School to high school students, speaking as a local entrepreneur. And I asked these high school students, had you ever considered going into any kind of business? And there were several of them that said, I wanted to do this, I wanted to do that, but my parents told me it wasn't a good idea and you shouldn't do it. I wanted to cry. I felt awful. And I was really disappointed that they weren't as fortunate, say, as me, where people encouraged them to give it a shot. I've tried many things and failed. I've tried some things that have worked out very well. But if somebody has an idea and you think you can make a go of it, don't be afraid to fail. Go for it.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I love this because similar to you, I also started my business in college. And so there's so much opportunity. And I feel like what you experienced and what I saw as well is that when you're in school or even just a young age in general and starting a business, like you usually don't have any liabilities, you usually don't have a mortgage or many bills to pay. So it kind of gives you that flexibility to start young compared to if you start maybe older in life when you do have bills or more responsibilities to be a part of. So I love what you shared about just kind of like diving in. If the opportunity is there, don't let it pass by.
Yeah, it's a really good point, and you're right. When you don't have mortgages, or you don't have children, or you don't have those liabilities, it's a little bit easier, and you feel the risk is less. The unfortunate part is that there are a lot of people that do have those liabilities, and that discourages them from trying. But to those people, I'd say think it through thoroughly, do all your homework, but still, if that's your passion can be a very strong driving force. Your passion
Yes.
can help you accomplish a lot. So even if there's a lot at risk, if you have that passion, go for it.
Yeah, I love that reminder, right? It's like, especially as a business owner, I mean, there's always the long hours and the difficult situations that can happen with teams or clients and customers. And so, to your point, having that passion is really what helps keep you going and helps you remember why you're doing what you're doing. So, I love that reminder of just focusing on why you started this in the first place.
And I think when you remember why you started it in the first place, you don't even look at it like long hours or work. I
Mhm.
seldom say I'm going to work. I may say I have to go to an appointment. I have to see a client. I have to go to the warehouse. But
Mhm.
seldom will you ever hear me use the word work, because when you find something that you like, something you enjoy, something you have a passion for, you don't view it as work. You're
Yeah.
excited about it. You jump out of bed ready to go.
Exactly. And as you mentioned, once you started your company, it really started to gain traction and grow. And I think that that's something some business owners don't always know how to navigate successfully is that quick growth that they weren't necessarily anticipating. And so, how are you able to make that work without feeling overwhelmed? Like be able to kind of scale at a pace that was exciting, but also felt good to you and not daunting.
Yeah. So, being very transparent, I still struggle with scaling a business.
Mm-hmm.
47 years later, great success. I have no complaints. It's been very good to me. But when I started, as I mentioned earlier, it was out of necessity. I needed money. There wasn't a business plan. There wasn't, we're going to do this year one, year three, year five. This is where the capital is going to come from. This is how we're going to grow. I didn't even understand the word scaling till halfway through my career. So, so the advice is, yes, you should learn how to scale a business. You should get experts to help you do that if you don't know how to do it, but it does need to be part of your plan. So currently, I'm still learning, actually, and I'll always be learning.
And I love that transparency. And I think that's a good point too, is that I feel like as business owners, like there's always going to be something that we don't know the answer to or that we need to get better at, especially as technology changes and things change. I mean, there's always going to be that next target to hit. So I think that's a really good reminder for our listeners is that you might not figure it out right away, and that's more than okay.
So what I try and do now, and this is good advice, is try and be the dumbest person in the room.
Mhm.
Always surround yourself with people that are much smarter than you, more successful than you, and by virtue of being with them, you'll just learn so much.
Yes, I love that. And so I know, Mark, since you had started Mark's Moving and Storage, it also seems like you've started a few other companies or had your hands in investing in a few other places. And so I'd love to hear more about that as well.
Sure. Well, we have a great focus on storage. So we have a big commercial storage business where we rent to people for 90 minutes, 90 days, 90 months, 90 years, whatever they need. A small amount of space or large amount of space. We're very flexible. So we do a lot of that type of commercial storage, which is more of a real estate business, as well as the moving. But I'd say as far as new ventures, what I've had the privilege of doing over time is getting involved with philanthropy, with being able to help others. So we have a nonprofit, and I can credit my professor at Northeastern University, Ted Clark. That was my second round. When I went back, he helped me create a 501c3 called Marks Northeastern Furniture Foundation. And the way that started was in the moving business, often we're moving people who are downsizing or estates where a lot of furniture was getting thrown away. It was getting put into the landfills, and that was a waste. And we had a relationship with United Way of Tri-County, and they said, "Hey, don't throw that away. We can find people to use that." So I was doing that for a while, and then while at Northeastern the second time, this professor said, "Hey, we can make something really big of that. We can start a foundation." So we started the foundation. We have a board of directors. We collect about a dozen 53-foot trailer loads of furniture every year that gets donated through organizations like Household Goods in Acton, Mass, or a Welcome Home in Newton, Mass. And it's unbelievable. So you have a dozen trailer loads of furniture that would have gone to the dump that now are getting into the homes of those in need. And then we purchase a trailer load of brand new mattresses once a year as well. And so that part of our business, I would have to say, as much as I like being successful and profitable in a for-profit business, I'd have to say that the philanthropy part, the part where we're taking goods that would be in a dump and we're
Yeah.
getting to the homes of those in need, is probably the most fulfilling part of my occupation. And I think that it's even deeper than that because, and I hope people listening to this will follow this. I think that we have an obligation to help other people that are less fortunate than us. I think we have, it's an obligation. It's not something you think, should I help? Shouldn't I help? My belief is if you're in a position to do anything to help others, do it. And it doesn't have to be giving money. It doesn't have to be giving furniture. It could be 1 hour a month at a shelter, or at a kitchen, a food pantry. It could be just helping somebody in some way, an elderly person that doesn't have family, talking to them once a month through an organization or reading to them, whatever. But we have an obligation to do that. And I'm lucky. I'm very fortunate, very blessed because I have an easy way to help a whole bunch of people. So we do that. And then we carried it out a step further. There were people that we are not moving that want to get furniture. It's extremely expensive to go get the furniture. So we created another organization called remarkabledonations.org, where people can go online and they can order a pickup of furniture that they don't want for like half the normal price. And we get that again to people in need. So I'd say the ability to start new organizations that help others has just been a tremendous thrill in my professional life.
I love that. And what would you recommend to business owners who are listening to this episode who want to do something similar in their business, build out some type of philanthropic branch? What's some advice that you kind of learned along the way, or just some tips you'd give to them for getting started?
I think the advice is the same as with what type of business should I go in. People say, I want to go in business for myself. What should I do? So we
Mhm.
start off with a little lesson. We say, okay, a little exercise, I should say. What do you like? What do you like to
Mhm.
do? Do you like uh, food? Do you like animals? What's fun for you? What are your hobbies? And then try and find a business that aligns with the things that you enjoy. Because if you enjoy what you do, it's not work. You're going to have a passion. You're going to succeed. I think it's the same thing with philanthropy. Find, say some people, want to help dog shelters. Some people want to make sure others have food. We're also the official mover for the Westboro Food Pantry. We do work to support them. But the answer to your question is find something that you feel strongly about. Maybe someone something happened to somebody or something. Do what you go with what you feel most strongly
Mhm.
about that you want to make better. And it doesn't matter what it is. You'll benefit, they'll benefit.
Yes, very true. I love that. And I'd love to hear any exciting things that you might have coming up in your business or in your nonprofit in the coming year.
Yeah, so we have two events coming up. The first one is on October 5th, and that's going to be at the street in Chestnut Hill and Chestnut Hill, Mass. We're parking a large trailer there, and in conjunction with the street ownership and Welcome Home in Newton, Mass, we're going to attempt to fill that trailer with blankets and towels, which are two highly needed items for that organization. So we have three actually. Then the following day we have the Needham Harvest Fair, which is not nonprofit, but it's just a fun event on downtown Needham Center. And then we have another event towards the end of the year. It's called Marks Mattress Miracle. And what we do is we raise money. Usually it's about $25,000. And we go out and we purchase one 53-foot trail load of brand new mattresses. And we donate those to an organization called Household Goods in Acton, Mass. And they're the ones that deal directly with social workers, caseworkers that can get those mattresses into people's homes that need them.
Mhm.
Because again, as we say, nobody should sleep on the floor. And we are trying to create programs that will make sure that nobody sleeps on the floor, that nobody will go hungry, that people will have furniture. And what is really wonderful is that my clientele, the people that we do business with, that purchase my services, my vendors that I purchase services from, just great communities, great organizations. What I find is that you always hear the horror stories in life. Unfortunately, those are the ones that seem to make it to the news first. But there
Mhm.
are so many good people in the world. There are so many people that want to help others. There are so many people that really want to do the right thing. And when you get together and you collaborate a little bit, it's phenomenal what you can accomplish.
Yes, so true. And one thing you mentioned in that is that you have really great clients and customers that you work with. And so, just from hearing about your experience, customer support and customer experience has clearly been something that's been very important to you and something that you've prioritized. And so, I'd love to hear your advice around providing a good customer experience for business owners so that way they can make sure that that's something that they really prioritize and focus on in the coming year.
Well, I was accepting a furniture delivery about a year ago, and the furniture delivery company, uh, before he would leave, he said, "You have to talk to my boss." I said, "Well, what do you mean?" He said, "My boss wants to hear from the customer every single delivery I make today. He needs to hear from the customer that it was made perfectly and that you're happy." And we always sent out quality control reports or questionnaires. But I said, you know what? Starting today, which was maybe a year ago, every person that we move, the project manager, the salesperson that sold that job, before that crew leaves, You need to talk to the customer and you need to make sure they're 100% satisfied. And we do that. And what we find is that, well, first of all, fortunately, most of the people are 100% satisfied. But on the occasion that they're not, I have the ability to immediately make it right.
Hmm.
Whatever it was, piece of furniture wasn't in the exact location they wanted. They felt it took a little too long, or they thought it was $20 more than it, whatever it is, I can address it and I can make them happy.
Hmm.
And most of the work that we do today, I'll say, is not because we're the lowest price mover or the lowest price storage house.
Hmm.
Most of the work we do today is because they know if they call Marks Moving and Storage and they deal with Mark Silverman or one of his team, that the likelihood can't can't promise it because there's a human element, but the likelihood that it will go perfectly is extremely high. And in the
Yeah.
unlikely event that there's any issue, we will take care of it quickly and without any type of argument, confrontation. Will just be fixed. So, yes, customer service. I mean, look, if someone's not happy, they go on the internet and they tell the world. If
Hmm.
someone is very happy, they don't go on the internet as often, but they do still go on the internet and tell the world how happy they are through reviews, Google, whatever, and they tell their friends. And so our entire reputation is at stake every single interaction that we have. And we
Yeah.
realize that. And therefore, we try and be 5-star, best in class all the time. We have a very good record. We're not perfect. Any company that tells you they're perfect, they're lying to you because nobody's perfect.
Hmm.
But you want that comfort level. You want your client to know my cell phone number is published everywhere.
Hmm.
People can get a hold of me. I won't answer it if I'm talking to you on a podcast, but I'll check when we're done. And if anyone needs me, I'll be right on it. And people are giving you money. They're entitled to get what they paid for. The
Hmm.
sad part is that we have clients that will give us checks, very substantial amounts of money, and they will go, "Thank you so much. Thank you so much. That was so wonderful." And the reason they're so thrilled is because a lot of people have experienced failure in purchases so frequently.
Hmm.
We don't think we're heroes. We think we're just doing our job. We're just doing what we get paid for. But that's what the sad part is, that when someone gets what they paid for, they think they won the lottery. Shouldn't be like that. They should always get what they paid for.
Yeah, great advice, especially your point about being proactive rather than reactive when it comes to ensuring the customer is happy by having the people who work directly with them to ask them how they felt about how things went. And then to your point, being able to step in immediately if something needed to be rectified. So that way it's quickly resolved and the customer feels supported. I think that's a really good reminder for anyone of any business to be in close touch with your customers and hear from them directly if they felt supported or not. And if they didn't, find ways to rectify that situation and make it better.
Yeah, it reminds me of another experience we had where years ago, somebody had expected that we were going to inventory items in a certain way, and we had a different system. Our system was fine, but it wasn't
Mm-hmm.
what they expected. So I learned from that. I learned that I had better make sure that no matter how well I think I've explained things, how it's going to be done, that I ask all our clients or the project manager, just let's go over your expectations.
Mm-hmm.
And once in a while, you'll find that their expectation may involve something you didn't discuss. And so by asking them, just run by, please, what are your expectations? Well, I think you're going to be here at a certain time. I think you're going to be done by this time. I think
Mm-hmm.
you're going to send me a bill. And you can go, well, you're right on this, you're right on this. However, that's not the way that part's going to work. We need to discuss it. So
Mm-hmm.
understanding your client's expectations is very important. You might think you know exactly how you're going to do something, what they should expect, but that doesn't matter. What are they really expecting? You need to know that.
Yeah, and that is a really good piece of advice to have that conversation up front so that way your customers don't think they're getting something that you didn't promise them or you didn't intend to give them, and also vice versa. Because I think there's another part too that there also is expectations for the customer to the service provider. So being able to understand what both parties need to do, I think, is huge.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And so I'd love to hear, Mark, for anyone who's listening to this episode who is considering getting into the moving and storage industry as a business. What advice would you have for them for getting into the industry itself specifically?
Well, that's a really good question. The moving business itself, the barriers of entry to just become, say, quote unquote, a mover, uh, really isn't that difficult. You can
Mm-hmm.
sort of go buy a truck and be in the moving business. I would suggest that they investigate thoroughly what you need to do to be compliant,
Mm-hmm.
what you need to do to adhere to insurance regulations, to adhere to different hours of service for drivers. Uh, there are things involved, whether it's background checks or drug testing or physical capabilities, competency testing. Uh, Labor businesses, service businesses are actually very difficult businesses nowadays. There are so many people that can pick up their telephone and find a way to make a living from their iPhone.
Mm-hmm.
So to get labor, which you need for say a moving business, it can be challenging if you have high levels, strict requirements, and you want to be compliant, which of course you do. So I wouldn't say the moving business itself is actually the greatest business to get into right now, but you can certainly align yourself, with companies like ours or other successful moving companies, and sometimes through some type of partnership. That's a
Mm-hmm.
good way to go. For example, if someone were interested in listening to this and they wanted to get in the moving business, I would say, call me. We have opportunities where you can basically be self-employed, be in your own moving business, not quite a franchise, but work under, our brand.
Mm-hmm.
So if someone's serious about getting in the moving business or storage business, I would say tell them to call me. I may have an opportunity for them.
Love it. And good piece of advice too about partnerships. I think that is a huge driver of business growth and business success is finding like-minded businesses or that might offer the same services or complementary services that you can partner with, and then you both benefit from it. I think partnerships are an easy way to kind of get into something and find a good outcome that comes from it.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And then overall advice for just anyone in business. I mean, I know you just shared advice for the moving and storage industry specifically, but for someone who's listening to this podcast and maybe thought about starting a business, wasn't sure, and now they're like, Mark has inspired me. I want to start a business. What
So,
advice would you have for them?
so I think the best thing to do when someone has an idea is to, come up with even if it's a one page, very simple business plan, what you plan on doing, and then go to your family, go to friends, go to people literally out in the street and say, hey, I'm thinking about opening a restaurant and this is what I plan on doing and this is where it's going to be, and tell them everything they can about it, and just say, do you think it's a good idea? And listen to what the people say. And and some are going to say that's a really dumb idea. You shouldn't do that. You can never make any money in that business. Uh, and then you need to have an answer for that. You
Mm-hmm.
need to be able to say, well, actually, I determined that my cost would be this and my rent would be this. And if I get that location at that rent, I think I can. And so they've overcome their objections. And then they go to the next person. And if you can get to a point where you've talked to whatever, 10, 20, 100 people, and every person that discouraged you, you were able to overcome their concerns, you probably have a very viable business. On the
Mm-hmm.
other hand, they might tell you some things or bring up topics that you never thought of.
Yeah.
So, oh, wow, I didn't realize whatever that may be that they told you. And then you go, hey, that's not such a great idea. Or you pivot, you modify the idea. We say, back on my phone here, it's worn out a little bit, but it says set a goal and never quit.
Love
So,
it.
so if you want to be in the restaurant business, but your initial idea seems to have a few challenges, pivot, modify it, come up with a program with a plan that you're happy with, that you would enjoy, and that nobody can convince you why it won't work.
Mm-hmm.
You'll also find that whatever industry you're in, there are a lot of people like myself that are more than happy to give you a little bit of time and guidance.
Mhm.
If someone is serious about opening a moving or storage, or for that matter, any business, it would be my pleasure to help them in any way that I could. And I think what you'll find is there are actually a lot of business people like that. Again, most people are good people. Most people want to help other people. Most people want to give good advice to other people. You don't hear enough of those stories of the good stuff, but ask for help, ask for advice. Don't be
Yeah.
afraid. If I could change one thing when I was a kid in, say, grammar school or high school, I never raised my hand. I
Mhm.
listened, but I never raised my hand and asked questions. I wish I had asked a million questions. When I went back to Northeastern the second time, I asked a lot of questions. Even the
Mhm.
first time, I wasn't comfortable enough, confident enough to ask questions because to many people in the room, maybe they were stupid questions. But to me, I had to understand it. So my advice would be ask a lot of questions. Someone explains something to you, you don't understand it. Say, I'm sorry. Could you say that again? I didn't get it. And
Yeah.
keep asking until you understand it. Take advantage of all the people, all the knowledge that's out there. And you'll find that you'll get a lot of help.
Yeah. I love that, Mark. That's a great piece of advice. Just never be afraid to ask questions and admit to what you don't know. I think that's really important. And one of my favorite questions, speaking on the topic of asking questions, to ask our guests is what their favorite local businesses are to support. So I'm curious to hear what yours might be.
Well, that's a tough one. I would say more of a general response to that. I like the new startups. I like whether it's a new bakery or a new restaurant or a new plumbing company, whatever it may be. I like to try and help fuel new ventures. I think that when someone starts a new company, they have their time at risk. They have their money at risk. I think support local businesses around where you live or work. Support that new guy the
Mhm.
best that you can to help him make his dream come true.
I love it. Thank you, Mark. And Mark, now if you could please share with our listeners where they can find you online in case they'd like to connect further, please do so now.
Absolutely. So the easiest way to learn about us is to go to marksmoving.com, MARKS, moving, MOVING.com. That's our Call It Maine website. My email is mark, MARK, at marksmoving.com. And phone numbers are there, information's there. I welcome anyone to reach out. And again, it would be my pleasure to help anybody that I can in any way that I can.
Fantastic. Mark, this was such a fun episode, and I really appreciate you taking the time to chat with me today. And thank you so much for coming on this week's episode of Right Here in Mass.
Well, thank you. It's been a privilege to be on the show. Be well, everybody.